What's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith at GSD Studios, and welcome to another Jim and Jay show. So who the hell are Jim and Jay? Jim and Jay are my personal health, fitness, nutrition, biohacking, overall life optimization mentors. These are by far the two biggest badasses that I've ever met in this space. I don't know anybody when it comes to these topics, you guys, that's more knowledgeable. So we created this show for our GSD mode listeners to have an opportunity to go out there and submit your questions here to the show. If you have any questions you want answered on the show, shoot us an email at jimandjay@gsdmode.com, and we will do our best to answer all your questions here live on the show. Also, real quick, want to plug our sponsor that makes this show possible is www.chekd.com/TRT Revolution. So on the show, Jim, Jay, and I talk a lot about getting your blood work done, checking all your different levels, your hormone levels, making sure that your body is operating at its most optimal self, right? So that is the company that Jim, Jay, and myself all use. So again, www.chekd.com/TRT Revolution. So let's jump on into the show. All right. What's up, our peeps? Joshua Smith here with GSD Studios with another Ask Jim and Jay episode. So those of you that are tuning in for the first time, Jim and Jay are my personal health, fitness, nutrition, energy management, overall biohacking mentors. They're the most brilliant cats that I've ever met in this space, you guys. So we created this show where you can ask questions and we answer your questions here live on the show and help you level up in your health and your fitness. Because really, guys, there's nothing more important. People might say, oh, family's more important. Well, look, you can't level up and be the best husband, the best wife, the best father, whatever that looks like, if you're not taking care of your health. You can't serve and support others at the highest level unless you're taking care of yourself at the highest level. So that's what this show is all about. So today, we've been getting a lot of brilliant questions, you guys, and we're going to continue answering your questions. But today we wanted to keep this show a little bit more basic. I've been getting some feedback of, look, I love the show, but like more than half of the content is over my head, right? Like I need a little bit more of some more basic content of where to get started and what this looks like, for the rest of the information to mean a lot, which we totally get, we understand. I mean, Jim and Jay have been living, eating, and breathing this for, 20 plus years, right? So what we decided to do is I went online, I found an article from the Mayo Clinic about the top 10 reasons, limiting beliefs, whatever you want to call it, that the general public have of why they don't take care of their own personal health, fitness, nutrition, all aspects of their own personal health. Like these are their excuses, their reasons of why they're not doing it. So I figured I'd just go through these 10 questions with both Jim and Jay and have them kind of debunk these and remove their limiting belief, because we've all found now Jim and Jay, in addition to being health and fitness experts, are also entrepreneurs. And most of you watching this are entrepreneurs, right? We know that it all starts with removing those limiting beliefs. What restricts us more than anything else in any aspect of life is these limiting beliefs that we have in our mind. We've got to remove those. So we're going to debunk some of these tonight. So Jim and Jay, if you guys are ready, man, let's just rock and roll. So number one, I'm just going to go on. There's no particular order. I'm just going off how they listed them. And this is something that we all hear. We always hear this excuse, this time management BS issue. So the number one reason that people don't take care of their health and fitness is they don't have enough time. So you guys work with patients all over the planet. When people come to you with this, how do you get that limiting belief out of their mind?
You want to go ahead, Jim?
Yeah. Man, I wish, in my day job, I see patients that are unfortunate enough to have their health at the end stage of their life. And I always wonder, if you could ask those people, hey, if you could go back 20 years and take 20 minutes a day and do cardio, and it would have made a difference from where you're here right now, would you have done it? And my guess is there'd be a majority of those people that say yes. And I mean, that's literally what we're talking about. We're not talking about you transforming yourself into a Greek god physique, although that's possible. We're just talking about maintaining your health and improving your life, the quality of your life. And that literally takes a few smart food choices along the way and doing 20 minutes of cardio a day or 4 days a week. or, walking instead of driving, biking in your neighborhood, any of those little choices that you can make. And I know we're all busy. We'd all like to sleep a little bit longer, but to improve your life, you can't come up with 20 or 30 minutes a day. It's hard to believe, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll just throw my thoughts in there. And again, I've heard this too. And to make this personalized, to the audience, to make this as basic as we can, because I totally get, that sometimes Jim and I are talking very esoteric topics and stuff. And I hate that, because like, I want to serve as many people as I can. And so sometimes that just bothers me when I hear that. And I'm like, wow, I got to dumb down what I'm saying. But, the truth is that there's no such thing as not enough time. I mean, do you have enough time to breathe? Do you have enough time to brush your teeth? Do you have enough time to eat? I mean, everybody can find 20 to 30 minutes at some varying point in their day where they can do something that, accelerates their resting heart rate. And whether that's some form of cardiovascular exercise, or whether that's, going to do resistance training in the gym, it may even be yoga, but something that makes the joints, the muscle fibers, everything about your body, your physicality, elongate and fire is going to improve your body long-term, right? Like, I mean, they always say, that motion creates emotion. And the reality of life is that you cannot be staying at rest. You have to be a moving body. And if you're not a moving body, things are going to break. Things are going to get rusted. Things are just not going to work as efficiently as they could if they were constantly moving. So it's really just an excuse that people come up with because, something else is going on in their life that's preventing them from actually addressing their health, which is obviously the most important thing. And I'll use something that Monica always says. Monica says that most people don't appreciate their health until they don't have their health. And it's totally true. What, you see all this, and Josh, you see this all the time. But a lot of people just literally do nothing and do not take care of themselves. They're hard charging entrepreneurs, successful business people, and get to a point where they're 40 years old and all of a sudden they got serious health problems. And now it's a focus on like, wow, I gotta get in shape. What have you been doing? I mean, all that focus and all that energy, management was into, making money and providing and all this stuff. But, now your vessel is like corroded, so it's like, you have to have a perspective that no matter what you're doing from a work standpoint, there also has to be, like you said, an evaluation of yourself from an energy management standpoint. Like, if I'm going to have energy, I have to take care of my health. And so, as you always say, Josh, it really should be the hierarchy, right? Like, your health should be on top of everything else. Yes, you have your wife, and yes, you have your kids and your family and your obligations to provide for them. But if you don't have your health, you can't do any of those things as efficiently as you could.
Yeah, I love it. And I always preach this, but success does not come without sacrifice. But the cool part is you get to pick and choose what you sacrifice. So if you just do a journal of how you spend your time, your average American watches 4.7 hours of TV a day, right? Like, you can make the time. You just have to go out there and consciously create it. So love it. Okay, so myth, limiting belief, what do you want to call it? Number 2 on Mayo Clinic's list is exercise is boring. Man, I just can't get into it. It's boring as shit.
With today's technology, there's no excuse, man, of sitting on a bike or walking on a treadmill and being bored. I mean, the resources that you have for entertainment on your phone alone. I mean, music, podcasts, it's ridiculous. You can watch videos. When I do my cardio at home, yeah, it's boring to sit on an elliptical looking at the wall. But, I have an iPad. I can watch Netflix. I can listen to podcasts. I can listen to music. And it makes 20 minutes, 30 minutes go fast. You can read a book. If you're resistance training, I mean, I've been doing the same movements for 30 years. Yeah, it can be boring if you let it, but there's all kinds of mind games you can play to get through the workout, man. A million. You just have to train yourself to do it. But as far as just for improving your health, for cardiovascular health, 20, 30 minutes, a few times a week of cardio, there's no excuse to be bored. You literally have a little thing at your disposal that is an incredible wealth of entertainment. I mean, that's not an excuse at all.
Well, that's not even talking about the app, and that's something else. But I think this question needs to be analyzed a little bit more in depth, because I think it's just a superficial excuse, because I think we all know that once a person starts training in any capacity, there are neurotransmitter and encalphin and endorphin releases, again, chemicals from the brain that make you feel amazing, that increase sense of well-being, increase all these different things, this biochemical cascade that goes on in your body that makes you feel good. So this boredom thing is just, I think, just kind of like a superficial excuse for somebody who really doesn't ever, attempt to do this on a regular basis. Because now, if you're talking about cardio, then yeah, I get that. But like going to the gym or having some routine, whether it's yoga, whether it's some form of resistance training or whatever, some people do other stuff, some sort of sports stuff. I would never say that's boring. I don't think you could ask any person, and a lot of people are, relatively untrained people do CrossFit. I don't think any person who does CrossFit would say it's boring. If anything, the average person who performs CrossFit says that they go because it's not boring, because every time they show up, somebody is pre-programming, a new, course or progress course for whatever they're doing that day. So people, who are so ADD riddled today in our society, love that idea that, hey, I'm coming there and it's not boredom because it's something new and something I haven't done before or experienced.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think, almost all these questions that we're going to attack today really comes down to mindset, right? Controlling your mind. There's this big myth out there that successful people love doing the things that unsuccessful people don't. No, the reality is we all hate doing it. We just choose to do it. You guys, and I may be different, but I never, because I train early in the morning. I get up at 3 a.m. and I go train early in the morning. Dude, I never look forward to going to the gym, but I've never regretted one time ever when my workout was done going. Like, I'm like, oh, shit, I don't want to go. I don't want to get in the door. But once I'm there, I get feeling good. And then when I'm done, man, I'm always so excited and glad that I went. And you got to also understand that happiness doesn't equate to fulfillment, right? Got to do things that make you unhappy in the moment so you become massively fulfilled. A case of beer, a cigarette, whatever can make happiness right now. It's not going to make you fulfilled over time. So that's where the mental aspect really comes in. So I love it. Okay, so this one, and we see this a lot, man. And I know that, like I said, a lot of this is mental, but you guys are coaching, consulting people to overcome these all the time. And this is something that I haven't had to help somebody overcome. So I'm really interested to hear your answers. I'm really self-conscious about the way that I look. To the point where I really don't want to be seen inside a facility looking silly, whatever that may be. Because people, when they go, they think in their mind at the gym, everybody looks like they do in the movie 300. Right? And you get there, and it's kind of like, it's not what exists, but that's where the mindset is, right? And they're like, shit, well, I'm 35% body fat, and I look like I don't feel confident in these sweats, and so they just don't even go, right? Like, what do you guys consultants say to people that are struggling with that?
Well, these days there's a chain of gyms specifically made for that purpose, man. It's called Planet Fitness, and not to rip on them. It's a great idea. There's a lot of people there that are in that exact demo group. They don't want to go to a gym with meatheads like me running around and yelling and screaming, or whatever the perception.
Oh yeah, because you're screaming. Oh, your workout.
There's guys at my gym that do, but that's an intimidating scene. It is. If you're walking in the first time, you're 35% body fat, and you have major self-image issues. Yeah, that's tough to walk in and start.
If you ever scream in a workout around me, dude, you and me are not friends anymore.
But Planet Fitness is a great place to go, or like there's Snap Fitness. There's these little 24-hour fitnesses around in strip malls. Yeah. So that's a great place if you don't know anything about working out. You're intimidated to show up in a tracksuit or whatever you're comfortable in and start doing cardio. Everybody there, I guarantee, is supportive of you, and you can ask questions. You can hire a trainer to show you the equipment, give you once around, even stretch you out on a workout. I get that point, but with today's choices in gyms, in almost anywhere in any city USA, there's a place that you can go into and not feel as intimidated as you would like what your conception or your perception of a gym is. And so there's ways around that.
So Jim's answers are all great, Josh, but I'll also just take another angle, and that, again, with technology, come on, man, you could just get in front of your plasma TV that everybody has in America and put on Billy Tybo Blanks Fitness or whatever, TRX or all this stuff, and you can move. Okay. And you don't have to be athletic, and you don't have to have rhythm or coordination or anything. Still watch people on the screen and do it, and then there's also, and I totally understand for women, this is a really self-confident thing for women where they're obese or they're, they consider themselves over fat, however you want to classify them. And they're really intimidated. They really don't want to go to the gym. So there's trainers out there in most major cities. If you're in a small town in North America, maybe you don't have these options like somebody would in Phoenix or LA or Tampa or something. But there's tons of mobile trainers that literally will come to your house. They're not expensive. They'll train you for $35, $30, whatever. They'll probably even put you on a plan for a week for $75 or something like that. And they'll work out with you for 30 or 40 minutes, right? And again, it's like Jim said at the beginning of the first question, it doesn't take 2 hours. I think a lot of people who aren't, trained and are, relatively deconditioned, fat, whatever, don't take care of themselves, avoiding fitness for whatever reason, the people we're talking about, they have this misconception that, looking good and feeling better, is this massive time commitment. And I don't know how many times Monica and I in public, and you guys get the same thing too, or even your friends that aren't fit, come up to you and say, oh my God, you guys must live in the gym. What do you guys train 3 hours every day, 7 days a week? And it's like, dude, we go to the gym at most 3 to 4 days a week. We have a bike and a treadmill in our house, and we do that in the morning for 20 to 30 minutes before we, start working, or have to get the kids. But I think it's not just a physiological component. It's a psychological construct where, you have to convince them that it doesn't take all this amount of time to really build an amazing, physique. And again, amazing physique defined as you have energy management. You can walk around, pick up your kids, functional strength, feel good. Right. So I think that you have to first tackle the idea with them that, hey, it's not going to take that long. Okay. You literally can do this 3 or 4 days a week at 20 to 30 minutes of time and you're going to be good.
Yep. No, I love it, man. And yeah, I mean, if you're spending 3 hours in the gym, you're doing more harm than you are good anyway, right? I mean, you're right there. And I would tell most people, I mean, I'm in gyms, like right now I'm in a hotel room. I travel a lot, right? And I always hit the local gyms. I've been in Champaign, Illinois. I've already hit one. I hit a Planet Fitness, and then I hit another local gym already since I've been here. And I like to rotate gyms. And seeing dudes like Jim and Jay inside a health club, anywhere in this country, it's so rare. I very rarely ever see it. It's like literally, if you go to the shopping mall and just look around, that's pretty much what you see at the gym. Right? It literally is just your average person that's trying to get in shape. And so, again, I think so much of it is just we have these perceptions in our mind that isn't reality, and just go there and tour the gym. You don't have to work out. Just go there and tour it at the time that you would be working out and just analyze it and see. And I promise you'll probably be way more comfortable than what you've made up in your mind that it's going to be.
It's funny, though. Let me say real quick. I think that there's only 2 gyms in the country where that is not true. And Jim happens to work out at one of them, which is Powerhouse in Tampa, which is the Gold's Mecca of the Southeast or the South or whatever they call it, and then Gold's Gym Venice. But you're right, Josh. I mean, I say that too. I mean, Monica and I joke all the time that like there's no one fit in our gym. And again, we're in Southern California. I'm in West Covina in a very, urban part of Southern California. And it's a massive LA Fitness and a massive 24-hour fitness that we train at. Yeah, there's some fit bros and some fit gals, but by and large, man, there aren't a lot of people in shape training in these gyms. So there's no reason to be intimidated to go in and try to improve yourself.
Yeah. And like I said,
if things, sorry, Josh, if things are that bad, you can just change your diet and improve. I mean, if you're overweight or have too much body fat, you can just change your diet and not even exercise and start to see results. Or, one of the things that Jay and I have had a bunch of our clients do, you pick up a used exercise bike on Craigslist for $50.
$50. Right.
And one thing that I personally did, I wanted a bigger TV, right? I got like a 40-inch TV or something, and I want the big 65, 70. Mine even has a shade mark on it, and I'm too cheap. But instead of buying a bigger TV, I bought an elliptical from the house, right. And so those are little choices that, lifestyle choices, man, lifestyle choices.
Love it. Yep. And I love this next question, man, because and I get it. Coming from, maybe Jim and Jay, I don't know if you guys get it because you guys have always taken care of your health from a very young age, and I've always been very athletic. But coming from a guy that used to be morbidly obese, like I totally relate with this one. I'm too tired to exercise.
Right. So I'll go first, Jim. So for someone that's too tired, that's totally that's totally understandable, and that's there's a biological reason for that, and that is, well, first off, again, we're not doctors, so let's just preface that. And if there's something a matter with you that affects your health that you feel like is preventing you, your rundown or whatever, you should see a competent progressive physician, and you should get a diagnosis to make sure that you can begin exercising or doing whatever. But assuming that you are, quote unquote healthy, and you have a clean bill of health from a doctor, and you decide that why am I tired? Well, I mean, that's mostly probably it's twofold. You're not getting enough sleep at night. So the quality of your sleep, even if you say you sleep 7 or 8 hours, is probably shitty because, and I'm assuming that you're not in good shape. You're deconditioned. So it's probably likely too, you're holding too much body fat. So all of those reasons contribute to poor sleep. Insulin resistance, like if you start talking to some of the world's leading physicians about insulin resistance, and again, insulin resistance is when you're fat, you eat too much carbohydrates, your insulin sensitivity is screwed up. You're very insulin sensitive. So if you eat carbs, your insulin goes up and down. The average diet is very insulin sensitive. So the reality is that you are first, before, when you start saying I'm too tired, you got to start scheduling your training or your exercise in the morning. Okay. When you have the most energy that you have in the day. Okay. So if you're dead because you're physically exhausted by 5:30, 6 o'clock, because you're fat, you have insulin resistance, whatever, poor condition, your poor cardiovascular condition, whatever, your training should be in the morning and you should be doing cardiovascular. And it can be nothing. It literally can be getting up out of your bed, walking around your block 5 times or 3 times or whatever, walking your dog, whatever it is, some form of motion on, an empty stomach. We always talk about fasted cardio. Because remember, you just went all night without eating. So your body is in a position, theoretically, where it'll, start burning its stored body fat over anything else because it doesn't have glucose to fuel it. So that's what you're going to do, but I mean, again, it's a tough question to answer because there could be a number of reasons why a person says that they're tired, but normally it's because they're out of shape. They have poor cardiovascular conditioning. They don't breathe well. They probably have poor posture. I mean, I could go a million different directions with this, but the first thing you can do is start figuring out how you're going to calendar your time management so that you start exercising in the morning right when you wake up. Because there's no possible way, unless again you're physically incapacitated, that you can say that you have no energy or you're too tired right when you wake up.
Yeah, great points, Jay. And I just want to add too, most of the things that I see people eat, like I go rolling to a Starbucks or something in the morning, most of that stuff in there that I see people eat, man, and these aren't usually thin people, but even if you are, I mean, if I eat that much sugar and then bombed it with caffeine, yeah, I'm going to have an energy rush for about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to be in a diabetic coma for the rest of the day.
Right.
And then that's kind of a self-powering cycle, right? So then what do you do after that? I need some sugar. I need some more caffeine. Get that all day. Just say if that's a typical, which I think it's pretty typical for a lot of people. Yeah, man, you're not going to have any energy. You got to change. The food that you eat, the food that goes in your body has such an impact. Such a major impact on how you feel and how your body works. It's amazing. I mean, one of the things that we always hear from people, especially if they're not on any kind of diet, and we get them straightened out to at least where they're controlling the amount of sugar and being a little bit more choosy about the amount of carbohydrates that they take in, the first thing that we usually hear is, oh my God, I feel so much better. And that combined with a little bit of cardiovascular exercise, be it, again, you're walking your dog or you're doing something for 20 minutes, maybe you're sweating, hopefully you're sweating. I mean, that and cutting back on some of the sugars that you eat and being a little bit more wise with the food choices you make. I mean, you can totally change the way you feel fast. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fat, again, we're not laying judgment when we say you're fat, right? If you have too much body fat, and you're, deconditioned, which means you're, aerobically, out of shape. So you get winded very easily. You go up a flight of stairs and you get winded. The easiest thing you can do, and Jim's totally right. And again, we're trying to keep this as basic for people to understand as possible. You can stop eating starchy foods, carbohydrates, again, however you understand them to be, at 6 o'clock. Okay? If you stop eating all carbohydrates at 6 o'clock and you make that a religious part of your day, every day of your life, I guarantee you within a month of not eating carbs at 6 o'clock, everything will be improved. Your breathing will be better. You will have dropped who knows how much body fat. And you will have more energy just because, as Jim said, you're controlling your insulin more. Your body is learning to control its insulin more because you're not giving it carbs. So it's not like starving and, doing this up and down with the insulin chemoreceptor. So, I mean, that in and of itself is a very simple tip that anyone who feels too tired to train can employ into their life. And it's easier said than done, right? Especially for men, right? Because guys, we come home after a long day and we've got that massive hunger and we just want to eat. And most of the time, we're eating emotional food, right? So what are we eating that's emotional food? Carbs that make us feel good and makes us insulin come up more. And so we keep eating it when we overeat, and then, we have fat storage and all that stuff. But just kill the carbs at 6 o'clock, man. It's a simple thing to do. Remember Jim says meat and veggies, dream maker, so just eat meat and veggies after 6 p.m., guy or girl. And that's it. I mean, that's going to improve your energy management so much more, because when you wake up in the morning with no insulin, a very low insulin signal, take some coffee, caffeine, whatever it is, you're going to feel charged. There's no way you're going to say you can't exercise at that morning feeling like that. No way.
Yep. Love it all. And being the guy that's been there, like you guys, like I used to not be able to walk up a flight of stairs without, I couldn't even tie my damn shoes without getting out of breath. I mean, I'm 5'10", I was almost 300 pounds, right? So I think part of it is, number one, you just got to have faith that as you do this, you're going to gain more energy, right? But if you look at all these people that are in shape, dude, one commonality is they all have a shit ton of energy. Right. Watch Monica minutes, dude. The chick's bouncing off the walls, dude. Right? But you watch people that have massive energy, entrepreneurs or whoever that you like that you watch, dude, they're all typically in great shape. So just have faith with that. Like Jim and Jay both said, it happens very quickly. It's not something that takes 6 months. You will feel it in days, the difference. The last piece of advice, just from being a guy that's been through that, what I did, what I still continue to do, I journal everything. So if I eat a meal, I'm always journaling, okay, well, how did that meal make me feel? Did I get more sluggish? Did it make me more tired? Or, did it give me more energy? Right. And just be cognizant of how your body's reacting and feeling, because everybody's different. And there's certain foods that I know I can't eat after certain times. Although, I get into a fucking coma and want to take a nap too, right? So, love it. So the next one, I'm going to ask it just because it's on the list, but I already know how you guys are going to respond, but I'm too lazy. I'm too lazy. I'm too
lazy. Well, I mean, that's actually a really good one, because, this is also one where this is okay. So when someone says I'm too lazy, I'm going to put my mindset coach hat on right now. When someone says I'm too lazy, they're really saying something else relevant to their personal life that is bothering them, whether they can actually come out and admit that or accept that as what it is. But, when you have that excuse, there's something else that's going on in your life that's driving you away from not doing something that you already know, because I'm assuming everyone watching this is a reasonably intelligent person, that exercise is something that everyone should do, to extend their life, right? I mean, amongst the other great things it does, energy management and all that stuff. But so if you're saying you're too lazy, that's really just an excuse for something else that's bothering you, especially if you're saying that, like for somebody that comes home from work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they're a high school teacher or something like that, and they're just like, oh, I'd rather just sit on the couch and watch TV and, text my friends or whatever. The reality for that is that they're in some sort of a emotional rut, and they've created a construct where I want to text my friends because it keeps me from doing something more productive. So a lot of people just choose to do things, that aren't technically what they should be doing because they have this something else going on in their head. So I always just say, for that person, I'm too lazy. Guess what? Find a partner, find an accountability partner, find somebody who is going to say, nope, let's go. You owe it to me to be here. You got to be there. Right. So that accountability partner's got to be a serious person who is not going to do, oh, I'm too lazy now. So you got to pick somebody, if you're that lazy person, that is not going to let you down. And if someone is not like you. Yeah,
I'll kind of add to that. I mean, I ask people, we over the years, I've had so many people ask, oh man, I want to gain muscle, I want to lose fat. whatever. I mean, I can take any 400-pound guy or gal and turn him into a superhero. But the only thing, you can, if somebody wants to do it, if they follow what you say, if they're willing, all that stuff. But what you can't do is flip that switch internally. Whatever their trigger is, whatever it is that turns that switch on, that has to be something that happens within the person. And once that flip switch is turned on, or whatever happens or clicks into life, then there's all that shit goes away. All this laziness, I don't have time, all these excuses just go away, and it happens. And so for me in my own life, I mean, I was a fat kid by the time I hit 5th grade. I remember it's like a feeling of almost drowning for the knowledge and the desire to make that change. And I talked to everybody I knew. I talked to every teacher I knew. I took advice and figured out, I got to stop eating this crap. And it was done, man. There was no questions asked. I gotta walk more. I gotta do this more. I gotta play more sports. Done. I remember when I first met that bodybuilding guy when I was 13. It was like, oh my God, this is my life's mission now. And it was literally a feeling of being drowned for at least 10 years. I was on the path, man. Anything that I could do, nothing stood in my way. There was no excuses. There was no laziness. I mean, in college, I was working 3 jobs, had a family. I was getting up at 4 a.m. to go train clients before I trained, and then did a 16-hour day. Didn't matter. There's no excuses. So I don't know what that switch is for you personally or for anyone else. I mean, it might be your uncle having the 3rd heart attack. It might be, your mom having a total collapse of her liver. I don't know some health issues, something that you genetically can see coming. Or even a friend. I mean, we're at the age now, we all have friends I have friends who've died already from heart attacks. I have friends that have, 80 kidney stones and all these problems that keep coming up. They don't take care of themselves. That's going to happen to you sometimes, but they're not proactive about their health. They get off work, they drink beer, and then they call me and ask me, hey man, how do I get started on my diet? Well, hey man, that switch didn't flip on yet. You're not ready, or else you'd already be doing it. You would figure out how to do it. You'd be calling me up and say, hey, something clicked and I've been doing cardio for 3 weeks at my house. I've changed my diet. How can I get better? What else can I improve? And so all these excuses go away when you want it, when you seriously want it. So figure out what you want, man. Do you want to live a healthier, longer, better life with better quality of life? I hope so.
Josh, it kind of goes back just to what he's saying, because well said, Jim. It's you got to find your why, right? You were just reading the book the other day. I saw you posted that on the flight. The KW book or whatever. I forget what the title is. There's so many of them, but that's his overriding principle is you have to find your why. What is your why? And once you identify that, especially when it's relative to living or, taking personalized control of your personal health, then there's no way you're going to say I'm too lazy. It's nonsense.
Yeah, I think now I don't coach in the fitness space like you guys, but in the entrepreneur space, and it's all the same shit, right? And I'm always telling people, I mean, you gotta spend time getting clarity on what you want. More people, they spend more time designing their grocery list than they ever do their life plan. They'll spend more time planning their vacation than they ever will their life plan. So it's like, really, what's the outcome that you want for your life, and how does health and fitness put in this? Do you want to be a healthy, grandparent that doesn't just watch your grandkids grow up, but out there running, playing, hiking? You got to get clarity on that and start doing something about it. And once you get clear, life becomes pretty simple, at that point. Like Jim, he got clear, that switch flipped. The last piece that I'll say here is never wait for somebody to show up in your life to turn you on. Right? Because you always at it, what if that person never shows up, right? So when I look at that, it's, the uber successful, the winners that I know, they never wait for anybody to motivate them to get started. Even if they're not motivated, they start doing the work regardless. Cool thing when you do the work, though, it breeds motivation. Nothing breeds motivation like taking action. Okay, totally. So I love this next question. Not the last, we got several more. Because people look, okay, dude, Jay, very competitive, basketball player, athlete your whole entire life. Jim, you had a spout of being overweight till 5th grade, but you turn yourself around at a young age, and then we're always very athletic. So this is a limiting belief a lot of people have of, well, man, I'm just not the athletic type. That's not me, so I'm just not going to do it.
So I'll take it first, Jim. So first off, we're talking about weight training and cardiovascular activity right now. We're not talking about sports specific skills like, throwing a bat or throwing a baseball or throwing a football or shooting a basketball or anything like that. So remove all that nonsense. Okay, this is literally about fixing your skeletal body, your antenna that you only have. This one vessel, as Josh always says, that we have in this life, in this current life. So it has nothing to do with whether you're coordinated. And I can actually I'll put my exercise physiology dork science hat on real quick and say to you that the more muscle fiber or the more dense the muscle fiber on your body, the more neurologically efficient, which equals better coordination, right? Because when you have more muscle on your body just becomes, you have better motor control. You have better central nervous system stimulation. There's a lot of things going on. So when you start training with weights and hopefully do a little bit of cardiovascular again for the health benefits, and not to go into an esoteric discussion of why to do those things. But if you just make a focused effort to go to the gym, uncoordinated as hell or not, watch some videos, watch this stuff, reach out to, Jim and I, get a personal trainer at your gym. There's, most of them are worthless, but they can at least show you how to train or at least hopefully do the exercise right. You can figure this out so quickly and so easily. It's amazing. Now, again, you have to go into the gym with an idea that, and I always say this to everybody, your ego. First off, there's two things that block people from building amazing physiques in life, and that is ego and momentum. Okay. Your ego, you have to check because you're not going to the gym to do anything but to build a better body, to look better naked, to take your shirt off in public, man or woman, and say, wow, I feel good about myself. I don't give a shit what other people think, but I know I look good, so good. So in order to do that, you cannot have ego when you go to the gym. It's like everything in life. You need to check your ego and not live in the ego mind. But when you go to the gym, you cannot have an ego because all you're going there is to improve. Every time, like Jim says, you're going to beat your logbook. You're not going to impress anybody, okay? So get rid of that mindset. And then momentum is probably equal in a construct standpoint to ego, because if you're using momentum in your training, you're not actually contracting muscle fibers. You're not actually doing anything, okay? So eliminating both ego and momentum when you're in the gym is going to allow you to build a physique, regardless of whether you're coordinated or not. And I don't believe that stuff about, you're not coordinated. That was a label that somebody put on you in high school because you got cut, or in grade school because you got cut from a sports team that you tried out. And maybe you never even tried out for a sports team because you never had any positive encouragement or good role models or parents or whatever that said, hey, you should do this. And I see that a lot nowadays because my kids are 6 and 8 years old. But the reality is that it's not about being coordinated. It's about showing up and being consistent and having a plan, as Jim always says. And if you don't have a plan, you need to hire somebody or find somebody, and they're everywhere. A good brother or a friend or a mentor, can teach you how to do this. This is not something, it's not like building a rocket to fly to Mars. Okay. This is like going to the gym a week or two with somebody that knows what the hell they're doing and teaching you, and then obviously you being focused enough after that to say, okay, wow, this feels good. I like the way my muscles feel. I like the way this happens when I do this. And then it just becomes natural. But there's no such thing as like, oh, I'm unathletic or I'm uncoordinated and I can't train. That's just complete, utter nonsense.
Yeah, I got a couple of examples for you. I when I worked as a trainer in a gym, I had a early 60s lady came in, and she was the most uncoordinated person I've ever met in my life. Never ran, never did anything. I mean, she could barely walk. I literally started her out on the treadmill where I was so nervous I would stand behind her with my hands right off of her hips ready to catch her. And a year later, that lady changed her life, man. And her switch turned on. She wanted to live for her grandkids. She was able to use all the machines in the gym. She was able to use all the cardio equipment and came in and exercised for 40 minutes a day. Every day. And so, I mean, she started from nothing, uncoordinated and at an advanced age, not in the best vessel to start training. Doesn't matter. Second example, St. Jim. There was a girl with advanced stage, maybe medium stage CP that came in every day, man. She came in. You want to talk about an uncoordinated person? Have you ever seen anybody that can barely walk from CP? She got in there and busted her ass. She would do cardio and weight train, and she fought every day. I mean, if somebody like that can go in there and do that, the uncoordination, excuses just out the window, man. It's not, like Jay said, we're not talking about throwing a ball and running backwards and running around from people and playing smash. We're talking about walking on a treadmill and learning how to pick up a bar from point A to point B. It really, I mean, at that point, it's just lack of muscle control or muscle memory at that point. The more times you do it, the more efficient you get at it, and anybody can start doing it.
To be honest with you, most of that issue is conditioning. It's a psychological conditioning issue. They've picked it up and they've manifested it since grade school or an early stage of their life, where somebody once told them that they were uncoordinated or they felt uncoordinated or awkward or gawky or something like that. And they just manifested it inward and that became a part of them. But there's no such thing. I mean, again, Jim's totally right. Point A to point B. I mean, how hard is it to do a machine with leverage if somebody shows you how to do it one time? I mean, let me just pontificate. So today, when Monica and I were training this morning, there was literally, I should have taken a video with it because it was amazing. I felt so empowered after I did it. There was like a 75-year-old Asian guy behind us, and he had absolutely no idea what he was doing. And I never intervene, and I never want to intercede. I don't ever say it's my place. I always go for a place of contribution, and I say, are you open? If I do, and I decided today to do it, I don't know what made me do it, and he didn't speak any English, but I showed him how to do a standing push down and work his triceps. I mean, he was standing there, and he obviously was intentional about being there, but he was literally going like this, right? And so I was like, he didn't speak English, but I made my effort and I showed him and I had my arms on him and he ended up, it was amazing. Like Monica wanted to do a video with him. Like 3 minutes later, he ended up doing a tricep thing. And he came over to me and he bowed down in front of me and he said, thank you. And it was amazing. I mean, I didn't think much of it, but that's a perfect example. He's literally in his late 70s. He's probably never exercised a day in his life. Somebody's got him coming into LA Fitness to start training. And he has no instruction, but he's there, right? And that's 99%. He's there. He's doing it. He has no idea what he's doing, but he's there. And it takes people like us to help those people, and it's hard sometimes because you don't want to intervene and act like you're special by, hey, can I do this for you? Or can I show you? But sometimes I just feel like, hey, are you open to this? And he was, and it worked out. But I mean, that's a perfect example. Anyone can do this. Okay. He literally had 5 minutes of training with me and he was doing it perfect. I mean, literally, he's like, I'm not kidding. He's in his late 70s. He's completely deconditioned, but he was doing a perfect executed tricep push down and locking out his triceps in 5 minutes of instruction, so anyone can do that.
Yeah. The reality, like you guys said, I mean, you're not, okay. If you're uncoordinated, don't go jump in and do Zumba. Right, or some crazy stuff. The shit my wife tries to drag me into, and I do it, and I feel like a fool. But and then too, I mean, you look at the engineers that are designing these machines. I mean, a lot of these machines are designed where like you almost can't screw it up. Right? I mean, and what I love about when Jay talks about this, one thing I've learned in my world is uber successful people love giving back. Don't be afraid to ask. If you see somebody with a great physique that you like in the gym, right? I mean, if you're a dude, maybe don't go up to a girl and compliment and ask them for advice. But if you see, like, if you're a dude, let's see another dude, like, hey, man, dude, you're in great shape, man. I'm trying, whatever, too. Hey, do you mind, demonstrating I'm doing this exercise? Like, they're going to help you, dude. They're not going to charge you for it. Successful people love giving back and helping others be successful. So, love it.
Totally true, man.
Okay, so, and we've all heard this a bazillion times. Man, I've tried this stuff in the past. It just doesn't work for me.
You want to go, Jim?
Yeah.
Hard to fall asleep on us, Jim.
Sorry, guys. Hey, man, East Coast. Got a hurricane coming in. I'm all tired. Been running around getting supplies all day. It's it takes a while too. You're not going to jump on. You're not going to have 30 years or however old you are, 30, 40 years of eating crap and not exercising. You're not going to jump on an exercise bike and in a week see results, man. It's just not going to happen. And so you have to have a little faith and stay with the program. The more you put in it, the faster you're going to get results. If you change your diet and start exercising, you're going to see results faster. If you just make slight changes in your diet, it's going to take a little bit longer. If you start cardio and you're not making any dietary changes the first time you've ever done it, I mean, you're not going to see results the next day in the mirror. I mean, my God, I wish it worked that way. Everybody would be in shape and feel fantastic. So when you start a program like that, or you start doing cardio, you got to have faith in the program, man, and know that the more effort you put into it, the faster you're going to see results. And typically, if we take on a new training person or a new client, that had a baby or whatever, going to get back in shape, it's 5 weeks. Sometimes people respond faster, but if you're starting a diet, like if I was at 12% body fat or whatever, and I started a contest diet where I wanted to get down to 6, I'm not going to look in the mirror and see discernible fat changes, even me, for 2 to 3 weeks. And so you got to have some faith when you start a program, man, that you're doing the right things, you're putting the work in, and the results will come.
So what are you saying, Jim? 6-minute abs doesn't work? I saw that infomercial last night, bro. That shit doesn't work.
No, it's 7-minute abs. That's the only one that works. Yeah, I mean, let's be reasonable, dude. You cannot destroy your body for 30 years and then think of going to the gym once a week, or your second week, maybe in your first month in the gym, you're gonna turn into a Hulk, man. It doesn't work that way, man. Maybe for some people, but my guess would that you would already know you're genetic free before that.
Well, Josh, I have a good point to add to this real quick, because this is a great question, and you guys know I'm very passionate about saying this, but the average 55 or 60-year-old guy in North America right now who tried TRT 15 years ago when it first came out and it was like the in vogue thing. I'm talking about successful white collar executive level, C-level dudes who now say to me and Jim and you, Josh, that shit doesn't work, man. TRT's a scam, right? Like, how many times have we heard that from people? Because the doctors that were giving them testosterone 15 years ago had no fucking idea how to administer testosterone. It was a brand new thing. This Harvard doctor, Bazin, did this research, and all of a sudden it came out that you could give guys testosterone and it works and blah, blah, blah. And so all these guys that jumped onto it, they didn't know what they were doing, and they administered these guys, and they did fail. So now these guys are like, I would never do testosterone. So you've got that stigma in society. So how am I'm bringing that up? Because it segues, perfectly to this conversation of, I tried training at one time and it didn't work. And God, guys, don't we know this? I mean, you can go into any gym in America and watch trainers, that's what they want to call themselves, working with people, and they are doing some stuff that is so outlandish. I mean, they're getting zero benefit from a muscular, building or shaping, level. And if anything, they're doing stuff that may be dangerous because it's ballistic. I mean, there's just nonsense going on. So it's like, I totally understand when they say that it didn't work for me, because they probably experienced something like that. So the reality is that, again, it's like everything, right? You get what you pay for. You're not going to get the level of professionalism, the caliber of somebody who can train you, at a level, unless you do your homework, you do your due diligence, you investigate the people that you're employing or you're hopefully working with that is going to teach you how to do this right. And if you can't do that, then, it's not really the trainer's fault who's substandard, doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, I'm going to tell you this right now. And again, this is no slander to anybody that works out at LA Fitness or 24 Hour, any of those places. But if you think at 40 years old, you're going to go into one of those chop shops and hire one of those $25 or $30 an hour people to teach you how to contract muscle fibers and eliminate ego and momentum when you're training, you're going to be let down. It's not going to happen. It's very highly unlikely that a 22 or 23-year-old kid, which is who they employ, is going to have the skill set, the knowledge, the understanding of working with, various people, from different modalities in life to train you. I mean, they don't have it. So don't think that you're just going to go at 40 years old and hire a 22-year-old kid who works at 24-hour fitness because that's who they give you when you sign up for the gym and expect to learn how to train. It's not going to happen. So again, do your homework. There's so many qualified people out there if you need somebody. Okay, and most people are going to need somebody, but just make sure you pick the right person who actually can help you. Not some kid working at LA Fitness or 24 Hour Fitness. And again, we're not competing with them. Jim and I are not personal trainers, so we're not disparaging any of those guys, but we're just being very honest that, you have to hire somebody who is qualified to help you learn how to train.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, I always, my mind always, of course, goes to business analogies when you go to talk about this, but it's, And Jay, you and I both being in the real estate space, but how many guys do we know that are like, oh, I started watching HGTV, so I decided I wanted to invest in real estate. And I invested in real estate, and it just didn't work, dude. It didn't work. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it works for a lot of people. You just didn't work it correctly. It just happens in every aspect of life, man.
Well, right now too, as you know, Josh, not to say where we're at in the market space and stuff like that, but everybody that paid $15,000 that went on away on a weekend to learn how to flip houses is in the market right now.
Yeah, that's how it goes, dude, right? But or any investment vehicle. Oh man, I tried investing paper assets. It didn't work. No, dude. Look at Warren Buffett. I mean, it works, dude. Like you can't. There's too much proof out there to say that this shit doesn't work. We got to be cognizant and smart enough to be like, well, maybe just the protocol I had was shit. When people are like, oh, diets don't work for my body. No, dude, I'm pretty sure it was just the specific diet you did and tried. It always cop out. So the next question I really like, because, you talked a lot about hiring trainers or, if I want to hire a high-level consultant like you guys, and then we're trying to figure out some alternatives with some automated kind of do-it-yourself, but very informational programs where everybody can afford it with you guys. But, if I can't afford to go hire you, Jim, and, spend 10 grand to really get dialed in with all this stuff, then we sit there and think, well, I can't afford these trainers. I can't afford this. Like, I just can't afford it. Screw it. I'm not going to do it. And we know, dude, like budgets exist. Your average American, 76% of them are living paycheck to paycheck. So they lose their job. They're relying on government aid. And we know it's poor choices all the way around in their lives typically. But if they can't afford the gym membership, can't afford the gym, can't necessarily afford organic eating, we know a lot of those people. How do we eliminate that belief then?
So I'll go first. So I have that right now in my life. Not me personally, but my daughter is 8 years old and she is on the train, my friends. I have her, and this is what any person can do. Okay. I don't care if you live in a cardboard box underneath an overpass in LA. Okay. You can do free squats, right? Standing on the floor. I should probably turn the camera around and show them how to do it, right? But like literally you just, you put your arms like this and you just squat down and you go as far as you can. Hopefully you're in a decent enough flexibility where you can go and get your hips pronated and your knees straight. You can do 25 of those. You could do like a circuit training of this type of stuff. You can then do push-ups, right? So you're starting for your biggest muscles first. So your legs, you then go into push-ups. So you're working your upper body, your chest. Do 15, 20 push-ups, whatever you can do physically. If you have to get on your knees and you're a woman, you can do those. And then you can do, I would like to say if you have a wall, if you have somewhere like in your garage where you have like a metal bar on the wall, and we have a pull-up bar put in our house, but, and honestly, you can install a pull-up bar for $20. You could go get a metal bar at Home Depot and just,
walk to the local kids park that has monkey bars.
I mean, you could definitely go to a park and work on monkey bars too. Absolutely. Yeah, you could. That's actually a better answer. Good. So you could do that and it's free. But if you want to, again, I'm thinking about the people that are afraid to go out of their house. So, a pull-up bar, and then you just do, either, get somebody in your family to assist them. And I have to assist my daughter. My daughter is, by the way, a super freak. I have to scream about her right now. She literally did, yesterday, she did 12 free hanging, 8 years old, free hanging pull-ups, chin over the bar without my spot. So, I mean, it's crazy, man. She's way more advanced than I was, but you have to, these are things you just have to create, right? Just out of your head. And then she also does sit-ups. So she does 5 sets, which are basically like little, circuits of those exercises. She does 25 free squats. She then does push-ups, as many as she can get. She then does the free thing. I spot her usually by the second set. And then she does sit-ups. And you do 4 or 5 of those and do those every day. I mean, again, how committed are you? But, maybe 3 days a week. I mean, she's 8 years old and I have her doing them 3 days a week. Maybe you want to do them 5 days a week. There is no excuse you can come up with, money, limiting beliefs, whatever, that you cannot just invent these things. Go on YouTube for free, look up home-based workouts, look up circuit training without weights. And that kind of stuff. There's so much out there, and do it. It's an excuse. There's absolutely no way that you can say that you can't afford to train or you can't afford to exercise.
Yeah. And then do you mind if I jump in, Jim, just so you can correct me if I'm way off base here, because I might be. But, like I was helping my mother-in-law do this. She doesn't want to go to a gym. I mean, they can afford it, but she just didn't want to. So like Jay said, it was like, dude, just doing squats, just body weight squats, sit down to hit, till your butt hits the chair and then come up. Had her just getting cans of soup and doing, just curls and even filling up gallons of water, doing things like this. But then, like I look at like when I started losing weight and getting in shape, which was college age, dude, when I was broke as a joke, making $10 an hour, like I really couldn't afford the right foods, if you will. Like, right. I mean, I recommend eat organic for energy and if you can, but I get it's expensive. But at that point, dude, I mean, I was just eating, cans of tuna from, Save-A-Lot or wherever the hell it was, and just making sure I was still getting high protein, calories were low, even though it might have been not the highest quality, but I was still getting results. I mean, it doesn't have to be, to get results, you don't have to fully eat organic. You can eat 40-cent tuna cans and I mean, is that way off base, or do you agree with that, Jim?
No, man. I mean, I was pretty poor growing up, pretty poor through my 20s, man. And to your point, dude, you could go to, I don't know what it was called, like Food Saver or whatever it was, and you could get 20 cans of tuna for like $10 or whatever. Not the best tuna, but that and a bottle of mustard, man. I mean, that was like 55 grams of protein. And so again, I mean, if there's a will, there's a way.
Mustard.
Yeah, dude. What are you gonna eat, mayonnaise? Yeah, that's a fucking joke. Mustard has 0.
Why not just put Tabasco on it, bro? No, I'm just kidding. That's awesome.
But another point too, a lot of parks now in a lot of cities in the U.S. they have walking trails that have body weight movement exercises set up, like a pull-up station, a dip station, or whatever. Those are all around. You can do that. Or you can buy a set of bands at any sporting goods store, or even Play It Again Sports, a used set of bands, for $10-$20, man, and do literally work out almost every body part, at your home. And the last thing I have for that in my Krav Maga class, man, I mean, those guys can kick my ass in about 15 minutes just doing body weight exercises. And so, I mean, it really depends. Again, if you want to do it, there's no excuse.
Yep, love it, man. All right, now this next question, I really like this one too, because we see this, and I kind of understand this one for some. So the question is, I'm afraid I'll hurt myself. Now, maybe if you're totally healthy, it's like, okay, like if you do the proper form, but what if somebody like tore an ACL, had some knee surgery, or hurt their back years ago, and like they're truly freaked out of like, hey, I've done this before, and every time I do it, I blow out my back again, and I'm just freaked out. I'm going to injure myself.
So first, again, you got to get doctor's permission. If you're a guy with a serious injury or an ACL reconstruction, a meniscus, a medial collateral damage, and even like people that have hip issues, like arthritis of the hip, or had like women have had severe, older women have had severe osteoarthritis and have arthritic hips and arthritic conditions of the lower pelvis and stuff. Again, doctor's permission. And then from there, if you're serious, and again, you're relatively detrained, it does, in my opinion, come down to working with a really good qualified professional. I mean, how many times, and Jim, I'll let you speak to this, but like how many times, again, you go to the gym and you're at your commercial gym, insert whatever, and you're seeing older folks that are there training by themselves, and they literally, sometimes I think they may hurt themselves because they don't know what they're doing, but they know they're supposed to be there and they're trying. So if you're one of those people and you happen to be watching the show, and I don't know, Josh's demographic, he probably doesn't have too many 65-year-old plus people watching this, but there are some, because I had a guy today who watches his show, 68 years old in Cincinnati, Ohio, who sent me an email. So, you got to make sure you hire somebody, guys. You cannot go to the gym as a person who's untrained and deconditioned and again, never trained, and think that you're just going to figure this stuff out, because it's not that simple. I mean, it is simple once you have professional instruction. And again, all of us got professional instruction when we were kids or when we were in our teenage years or early 20s. Jim will tell you the story that he went to Gold's Venice when he was 13 or 14 years old and started interviewing guys. Right. So, I mean, there's a time in our life, and again, everybody's at a different level. We all get awareness at different periods of our lives. But going into a gym without supervision or instruction, professional instruction, is asking to get injured. I mean, asking for problems. Okay. And obviously we're talking about someone that's already has a pre-existing injury or condition and they don't want to get hurt. Then don't go in with a mindset that could allow it to happen. And to me, a mindset of that allowing to happen is just not having professional instruction or advice. I mean, you can't set yourself up for failure.
To that point, real quick, Jay, if somebody has that injury, because I mean, a lot of insurance companies, I mean, they're going to cover, different therapy, right? Physical therapy and whatever, and a lot of physical therapists suck, but there's some good ones too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this doesn't even mean that it needs to cost money, right? If you just explore your insurance company, you might be able to get the right help at no additional cost, correct?
Well, I would say it's a great point. I would actually say that the majority of these people, if they did their rehab when it was paid for by insurance and it was instructed by their physician or the people that were responsible for the rehab, they already know what they need to do, right? But if you have become untrained and you did that maybe right after the operation and now it's 5 years, 10 years later, then that's a whole different story. You're now completely detrained, quote unquote, untrained. And you need somebody, to just work you through the beginners or the basics, because again, you're not conditioned. Well, I think it's important to say this, and I'll let Jim finish, but if you're not conditioned and you go to the gym, then you have to have an expectation that you need to go slow and you need to take this really, really one step at a time. I'll go back to the guy today. He was doing 30 pounds and he was going like this. I lowered it to 10 pounds and eventually to 5 so that he could actually perform the exercise as it's intended, locking out his triceps and doing the motion in the correct way, right? So again, that whole thing, ego and momentum. If you're unconditioned or untrained and deconditioned and elderly and you're going to the gym with a pre-existing injury, you need to be very cautious and understand that you're going in there doing everything everything possible to not re-injure yourself.
Yeah, I'll come another angle. I'll come from a different angle on this. Well, first of all, if you have an injury like that, where you have a trick knee or you've had a torn ACL, I mean, what are your choices? To remain untrained and have it a weak point, or to go in and fix it and work everything around it, or come up with a strategy that makes it stronger than it was so you don't hurt it again, or so that you have full range of motion back. One of the points that you guys raised too was physical therapy. So every time that I've ever been to a physical therapist, I know it's probably a bad day for them, but I roll in and okay, this is what I do to fix this, but now what do I do to make it stronger? What is everything that you would do if you were me? What are all the structures that I can work around this to not make this ever happen again?
Jim is a chiropractor's worst nightmare, Josh.
And then, of course, I have to work the other side, so it's even. But, I mean, that's, if you're injured like that and you're going through physical therapy, ask those guys, man. They're willing to help. That's what they love doing that stuff. All right, what's my plan? What am I doing now to rehab, get full range of motion back? Then what are the exercises that I do beyond this to bulletproof that area so it doesn't happen again, so that it's stronger? If you do have a bad back and you're scared of starting to work out or whatever, I mean, work around it. Start doing cardio. Once you lose some weight, your back's going to feel better, and then hire somebody or get professional advice on how to perform exercises correctly and which ones based on your, injury or limitation that you should stay away from. That's it.
Yep, I love it. And one thing I'm really excited about, in about 10 days, Jim and Jay are flying out to Phoenix. And we're going to spend a weekend, you guys. We've got my film editor. We're going to spend a weekend doing some in-depth, hardcore video shooting of these guys working out proper ways to execute a movement and what this looks like, how fast you should be doing it, what this should be looking like, and really going deep, because we were talking about this before we hit the record button, but at least 90% plus of people that are inside a health club are doing things the wrong way.
Right.
Right? And unfortunately, they're just never taught the right way, because even when you go hire that personal trainer, it's like they don't. I heard a trainer the other day telling a guy at the gym right next to me, goes, the number one cause of obesity for men is the fear of losing strength. And I'm like, wouldn't the number one cause of obesity for men be stuffing your face with too much shit?
That's 100% true.
So, but and of course he's training this big overweight guy, and they got 3 plates on there, and the guy's arching his back, and it becomes an ego plan. I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? Right? But so I'm really excited about that, so we can deliver that to you guys. We want to make it where it's really affordable and walks you through those proper mechanics, so you hopefully can not have those injuries ever to begin with, right? Because so many of them are so preventable that we see, dudes tweaking knees, backs, elbows, just because they're just doing insane shit. So last question, again, these are the Mayo Clinic's top 10 reasons why people choose to not take care of their health for whatever the reason may be. The last one is, my family doesn't support it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Did your family?
But this came up last session too, though, is hey, well, right. My spouse doesn't support me going to the gym. They want to, that cuts into our date night, and now I'm getting results and they're not, and it's negative, and it's like we see this a lot. Like, this is a real issue.
Right. It is. And you can do things too, like involve your kids or find activities that you can do as a family. I mean, if you're somebody who's not exercising at all, and your wife and kids or whatever aren't exercising, or maybe your kids are and your wife and you aren't, there's things that you can do, man. You can do a family walk at night. You can walk around the block in the morning with your spouse. I mean, you have to be a little creative, or you can, buy a gym membership for the family. Kids can go, in the daycare center and watch TV, or if they're old enough, they can work out, or some gyms have activities for kids where they do swimming programs and all that. And you and the wife can do, 20, 30 minutes of a simple workout, or maybe you can play basketball with her, or maybe you can swim with your wife. That part of it, I don't know. There's not a general thing that I can, general advice. I mean, you have to evaluate the situation and become creative, to involve whoever you have to involve, whether it's your kids or your wife, in some type of activity, or sell them on the fact that we all need to do this. It's going to contribute to us having a better life.
Well, I mean, I'll go a whole different angle and direction. I don't agree with any of that shit. I don't see any people, and this is tough, and you guys know me, I'm not going to back down. I don't see any people today that are truly in a happy, loving, quote unquote, committed relationship that don't support each other's efforts to be fit. If one person is super fit and the other person is not, there's a problem in that relationship. Now, I'm not here to judge. And again, I'm not here to say, well, that person should leave that person, or that person needs to reevaluate things, because maybe they do have a loving, understanding, about that, and they can accept that, and that's how they live their life. But that would be the exception to the rule. Because what I see most of the time, and God knows Jim and I deal with this all the time, is, once the other person makes a commitment to being fit, the person who's not fit now starts to literally attack that person and starts to hate on them and starts doing little things to sabotage their attempts to, quote unquote, be fit. And so it just doesn't lead to a positive outcome, from any scenario for either party, realistically. So, my statement is that if you're one of those guys that's 30 years into a marriage, and you've been, and again, whether you're the man or the woman, you're the spouse that's fit and the other spouse is not, I mean, you got to look at things from a real standpoint. You got to evaluate things like what's important to you. And again, if you're 30 years into a relationship and one person's super fit and the other one's not, I mean, you're not going to have a conversation, fix anything. If you're 30 years in and you guys are fine and it's always been that way, then who cares? And that's just the way it is. Stop asking us or anybody, like, how do I get my wife to be motivated? That's nonsense. So, but if you're 15 years in, 10 years in, 8 years in, or whatever, and you can see where it's going, and one of you guys is super fit and the other one isn't, then, and if you haven't had that conversation, my first question is why not? But if you're at that point and things are starting to fray, you got to make a serious reevaluation. Again, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to tell you to get divorced or anything like that, but you got to look at this from a place of clarity and truly understand what's going on here, because if one person's not committed and the other person is, ultimately, at some point, there's going to be a conflict. Okay, because one person's living a lifestyle conducive to looking a certain way and feeling a certain way, and another person's not, and there's no way that you guys can keep a happy medium, till the end. So there's got to be some sort of give and take, or there has to be some sort of a agreement, and that agreement may be, hey man, we're going to go our separate ways. If you got kids and you got a business, or you got jobs, and you're afraid of all that, well, that's not a reason to not separate. There's always a solution to any potential problem. But again, to me, it's all about happiness. It's all about like waking up in the morning and not feeling pressure from your spouse that, says that you shouldn't live that, no judgment, and if you're living in a life, where that is, again, I'm not here to give you advice, but I always say to try to maintain the relationship first, to seek counseling. But if counseling is not an option and the other person is unwilling to change, well then, again, where's the evaluation at? Are you really wanting to go another 15 to 20 to 30 years, however it may be, with a person that is completely resistant to your way of life?
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And I'm the guy, and I know I talked about this last podcast, that I'm not saying that your spouse has to physically want to have the same goals as you, but I'm the big believer, and Jay's known me for a long time, and he's rolled with me, and he knows how intense I am about this, but I will never abandon my dreams. If my wife asks me to choose between her and my dreams, she knows which decision I'm going to take there. It's a no-brainer, right? So, but I think that's what a spouse is. They need to support you. They don't need to have the same dream, but they got to support you at your goal and your dream. Right? So if they're not, dude, absolutely, you need to reevaluate that relationship. In my opinion, whether it's health, business, whatever. The other thing, and Darren Hardy talks about this in the compound effect, but this is so mental, right? We got to understand society for what it is and just deal in realities. He talks about crabs in a bucket. Right, so when fishermen are fishing and they got these crabs in the bucket, dude, the crabs can climb right out. But what happens is one crab climbs out, the rest of the crabs pull it back in, so they never can escape. Right. Well, that's what society is going to do to you.
That's what it is, dude.
So if you go out there and get in shape like Jay and Jim, and all of a sudden you got your six pack and whatever, and you're making everybody else in your circles feel uncomfortable, they're going to try to pull you down. I call it the mediocrity vortex, dude. Society's going to try to pull you in, your closest friends, family, loved ones. They're doing it a lot of times. Subconsciously, they don't know they're doing it, but they're doing it internally because you're making them feel like shit because you're leveling up in life. And we see this in every element. So you got to be mentally strong because initially the buy-in's not going to be there. They're going to try to pull you back down and tear you down, and it's not anything negative to you. It's negative about themselves internally, and they don't even know they're doing it. But eventually, right? First they criticize, but eventually they come around and they'll start praising you for what you do. You got to stay mentally strong with it. And we see this, again, every aspect of life, health, wealth, business, all of it.
Dude, that is so right on.
Yeah, I got something to say too. Go ahead.
One of my favorite sayings is show me your closest friends, and show me your 5 closest friends, I'll show you your future.
Right.
And that's so true, man. If you're your personal support group or your closest friends and your wife or family or whatever, you all go drink beer and eat barbecue every other night, and you all kind of accept that you're fat and out of shape and unhealthy, and one of you tries to break away, man. I mean, that is so true, dude. So true.
Well, I mean, so I want to say something to that too, and I know this is our last one, and maybe, we're coming up against it time wise, but you really have to be not cautious, but you really have to be, have your blinders turned on or not on at the initial stage of a relationship. And obviously, this is going to go for the younger guys that are watching this. And I know we have a lot of younger listeners. We have a lot of women and guys that are in their mid 20s to early 30s who are not married, who are, coming up. Guys, gals, do not, by any stretch of the imagination, get into a relationship with a person that does not have the same commitment to you from a health as you do to a health and fitness lifestyle. You are just going down a path that is not going to have a positive outcome. Now, as Josh said, you don't have to have a spouse that wants to have a 6-pack if that's what you want, right? But as long as your spouse, and again, if you're a girl or guy, it doesn't matter, is looking at that from an angle that is like, I support you because I love you, and that's your goal, then that's okay. But if it's a person that is literally antagonistic towards what your health and fitness goals are, but you have good sex with them or something, then don't get into a serious relationship with them. Do not marry them. I mean, I see so many guys, and I'll say guys because we work with so many guys. We do work with gals too, but I see so many guys who come to me in gym at 45 and 50 and are like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. My wife's just blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, you've been in a marriage for 20 plus years with this person. What is now making you decide that it's not going to work or that you got to get out of it? It took you that long, to see these things. So it's like, what are you going to do for those people? Those people have businesses, they have incomes, they have assets, they have all of these things that are countered around that relationship that's gone on for this amount of years. It's a lot tougher for them to get out of that. And again, I'm not talking or advising them to do that. That's their own decision in their life. But if you're a 30-year-old person, you're watching this show right now, you're a girl or guy, it doesn't matter. You're not married. Please take this advice as well as you can. Do not get into a relationship with a person that does not have the same dreams and the same ideas about what they want to do in their life that you do. Again, they don't have to be mimic. You don't have to be like Jay Campbell and Monica Diaz. That's just a freak relationship, right? But Jim's wife Rosie is very fit and committed to being in shape. And that's the type of person. Josh's wife is the same way. I mean, you want to be with somebody who lives the same way, not exactly the same way, but at least has ideas of like, Josh always says like, I'm not going to get fat because I owe it to my wife to not be fat. My wife's not going to get fat because she owes it to me to not to get fat. You know what I'm saying? So it's like choose a partner or a mate or a spouse or whatever that has the same commitment level to not like going sideways or getting off the track. I mean, that to me is like so important, man. It's so important.
Yeah, I've got this rule in business with business partners, and now that the three of us are business partners, we've all experienced this together, but you have a lot of small conversations, so you never have to have big conversations. Right. So when you're forming a business, operations agreement, no different than marriage, right? You have a lot of those little conversations. Hey guys, what's this? You have a ton of those, so you don't have the big ones. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I love that you brought that up, Jay. So yeah, awesome, you guys. Well, this has been an epic episode. I know it's been different than our kind of normal, deep, hardcore supplements, food, TRT. But again, we wanted to just dispel some of these common myths, and then also just hopefully answer some questions that I know that these are realities for a lot of you that are watching, listening to this show. We get busy in life, and the reality is we make up reasons, we make up excuses. A reason is just, if you ever find yourself thinking of a reason of why you're not doing it, that's just an excuse. A reason is an excuse, right? So hopefully Jim and Jay were able to go deep and help you guys overcome and remove some of these limiting beliefs. Any questions that you have, shoot us an email, jimandjay@gsdmode.com. I've had a few emails recently like, hey Josh, I've been shooting emails to Ask Jim and Jay, and they keep getting deleted. So I'm sorry guys, sometimes I'm not the sharpest cat. I didn't even label the email the name of the show, but it's jimandjay@gsdmode.com. There'll be a link below. Shoot those questions. Starting next week, we'll be back to our regular shows where we just answer you guys' questions. And Jim and Jay, man, I know how busy you guys are. Appreciate you guys taking time to be here to answer our listeners' questions, man. It truly means a lot.
Yeah, of course. I wanted a final thought just for everybody for this show, especially like, and if Jim, you want to add to this, like if you're going to do anything, if you're like obese and you are like sitting there right now watching our shows and it feels hopeless, right? You feel like, what the hell can I do? These guys gave me good advice, but I'm just in a position in my life where I don't know what to do, man. Please reach out to Jay and Jim, jay@trtrevolution.com. I'll connect with Jim. We talk 1,000 times a day. And if you need help and you need personal advice or anything like that, we, as Josh says, we want to pay it forward. We're not literally looking here to get paid from you. If you just feel hopeless and you really need help, please send us an email and we will help you. I promise.
Yeah, my last thought is something that Josh and Jay both touched on. When you want to change your life, or you're a person that switch finally goes off and you want to do something extraordinary, a lot of the people in your life aren't going to believe you, man. They're not going to support you, but anybody, I mean, you can ask people in my past or Jay's past and Joshua's past, when that happened and we had that determination, they saw it, man. I mean, I've talked to people that said, yeah, I knew you were going to grow up and do this and be a big buff guy and, be a success or whatever I wanted to do, because there was nothing that stopped you. Nothing. You had that dream. And so when it finally clicks for you and you say, I want to change my health or I want to get in shape, yeah, man. I mean, you're going to have to break away from the pack, but that's okay. That's what has to be done. So believe in yourself.
Awesome.
Love it. Powerful words. And the cool thing, guys, about this show, is Jim, Jay, and I can all relate with you. Whatever those excuses, reasons are, we can relate, right? I mean, all three of us, we all have families, yep. Right? And young families, man. And we all work. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all making 6+ figures a year. We all working our absolute asses off grinding, and we still make the time to do this. So, but we get it. We're also never going to bash them. Those excuses, reasons are real. And believe me, I lived that for so many years, and I had to overcome that and do that. So we can relate. So this show, again, is to help inspire and give you guys the inspiration, the motivation, but also the tactical information that you need to have success with it. So reach out, anything that you guys need. You can also connect with us inside the GSD Mode private free Facebook group. Jim and Jay are both in there, so you can tag them personally for certain questions. Like today, we just had one for a gentleman that's cholesterol's really high. I'm not qualified to answer that, but these two homeboys are, right? So anyway, you guys, thanks again. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.